Hey, good evening, YouTube family. Tio here with Simplistic Fishing. Tonight, we're actually going to finish up Lake Lewisville. We are on the fifth video for Lake Lewisville. So if you haven't had a chance to look at all these videos, definitely take a look. We broke it down into 3 different zones for the Google waypoints. The last video actually went over offshore hotspots for what I consider to be zone 1, so kind of the southern part of the lake. And now we're going to work on the northern part of the lake for the offshore hotspots tonight. So stick around. I've got some good stuff for you, and let's finish this thing out. Here we go. All right, so as I mentioned on the first video, we actually went down for video 4 and we broke out the offshore hotspots for Lewisville Lake or Lake Lewisville, however you want to say it. And we really stayed on the southern side of the lake. So pretty much where you see this creek channel that runs up here, we pretty much stayed south of that. So we cut off about right here, stayed south, and went up in these arms on both sides. So if you missed that video, click the link up at the top. That'll take you back there, as well as you can click the lake breakdowns, and that'll take you to all the waypoints that we can actually see on Google Earth, which that'll give you tons of good stuff. And there was actually quite a bit of offshore stuff that we were able to see on Google Earth on this lake because it was drawn down so much. So let's go ahead and get started. We started here where this little opening was last time. And remember, I mentioned there's probably going to be a lot of traffic in here from boats going back and forth. But there were some pretty good drop-offs there that you might want to take a look at. So let's just kind of go up from there. First thing that really sticks out to me on this is this roadbed that's running parallel to the bank line. So you would definitely want to scan that roadbed. And then I don't know if you notice this, if you can see it here visually very well or not, but there's something going on right around in here. So if I zoom into this little area here, if Navianis can catch up to me, or if Spectrum can catch up to me, you can see that there's a little indentation right here, right along this roadbed. So I would definitely take a look at that, scan it, see what it is. There's some type of a drop or something going on in that area that you'll definitely want to, to scan at and take a look at. And then also where this roadbed comes out here and makes a T, those are always good areas to take a look at as well. So then moving up here, just looking at a couple different things. One is, we talked about it a lot on the last video, is those points that come out that are really shallow and then they have access to deeper water. Well, here you've got a shallow point. So let me scroll over this and bring it in a little bit. Right here, we've got a shallow point. So right here, comes out, it's about 5 feet. It's actually got a roadbed off the top of it. And then it drops off to almost 12 feet. So you've got about a 7-foot drop right there. So I would definitely look in this area right in here to see what you can find. And then over in here, this might be a little bit deep, but these are areas where you find brush piles and stuff like that. Again, you've got this big creek channel swing that you can see over here on the left, comes out and then kind of swirls back up. And so that causes washout and stuff like that. And that will push a lot of brush piles, stuff like that, all in this area. Now, it might be too deep to fish that area, but it might not be. So definitely take a look at that. Take a look at the point there, take a look at the road that I talked about, and definitely look around just in this area. I mean, if it's not too deep for you, it's worth taking a look at. And then moving up here, you've just got the roadbed off the point, so you definitely want to look at anything you see there. You've also got another ledge, a little bit of a ledge that you can see here off of this point as well. So you'll want to scan in this area. Also, you have that little red dot that I always talk about, where the locals or someone that knows this lake really well has put some sort of a spot there, whether it be a brush pile, a rock pile, a foundation, something is there. So definitely take a look at that. And then we're just going to keep on going up. You can see this roadbed kind of goes through here. It says submerged trees could be present. Boaters are warned to proceed slowly and carefully, and basically at low levels. So you need to be really careful going back in here. Basically, when it gives you a caution note, that's usually not a good sign. So then I'm going to keep on moving back up in here, more road beds and things like that. Now this one's not a significant point. You see how it has the flat, and it might have a drop off here that you want to take a look at. But this one to me wouldn't stick out to me as much as maybe this one up here. This one makes a pretty significant point, and then it has a little drop off, a shelf, and then another drop off. So I kind of like this area in here. I would probably definitely scan this area. And then over here, it looks like you got flooded timber coming off of a shallow point as well. So this point could be a really good area to fish as well. And then, of course, we talk about it all the time. You always want to take a look at those road beds and just see what's out there. Don't assume that just because they're not in this area of the roadbed that they're not on that roadbed. They'll relate to that roadbed. Sometimes they're just chasing shad, and the shad will relate to the roadbed. So they could be anywhere up and down that roadbed. You just never know. And if you've got live scope, you take advantage of it. That's how you find stuff really easy. All right, so moving on up here, you've got some flooded timber that's off of this point as well. And then back in here, you've got a little bit of a flat area, but I don't see too much going on in here, so probably wouldn't spend too much time there. But because there's a fish icon there, I would at least scan it and just see if you can find anything back in that area. So my apologies, my internet is going a little bit slower tonight than normal, so it's taking a minute to load. But as we move back up in here, you see we've got some contour things, maybe a little bit of an area right here around this point that you could scan around. I don't see anything too crazy there. But if we go over here and look, again, we've got that same type of thing that we really like to look for. One I want to talk about first is really, let's just look at the back of this island, because it looks like something's going on in the back of this island. I'm not sure what it is, but let's take a look at it first. And then we'll talk about moving off of this point, because the point's probably going to be the most attractive spot. So anywhere out in here, following up on the edge of that point, anywhere in that area, all in this area is probably going to be good. You're going to have to scan around, find them, locate the fish. And then once you locate them off that point, you should be good to go. So pretty much anywhere right in this area. And then as we come over here, I told you I wanted to look at the backside of the island, but that thing wasn't cooperating with me. It is pretty shallow back in here, not too shallow. It looks like it's maybe 8-9 feet, something like that. But there's something going on here, like a mini hump or something. It says 8 feet, and then 6 feet. But then back here, you've got 8 feet up in here. I don't know what, but anyways, I would work around that area. It's a good area to take a look at. But if I was going to spend a lot of time, later on in the year, summertime, things like that, I would definitely get away from that area and move more out here off the point. But this looks like a really good underwater point to take a look at. As we move up here a little bit further, we've got another one of those points as well. This one comes out about 8 feet. So you can see right here. It's also got a marking that's out here around 16 feet. So that's probably something good that's going on in that area that you want to take a look at. So you'll want to scan this entire flat that's over off of this point, this underwater point, and then, check out there, and then check out those road beds as well. One thing that's interesting about this lake is some of these underwater points aren't going to be very noticeable at all from the land. And what I mean by that is like this one right here. This is a pretty significant point. Comes off at 8 feet, fairly shallow. At the deepest spot on the top of the point, it's about 18 feet. So it's a pretty significant point, and it's got major drop-offs on each side. But if you're looking at it from the bank line, that just looks like a little curve in the bank line. You'd have no idea there was a point there. So these are the types of things that you need to look at when you're out there fishing. Make sure you're looking at your maps and you're understanding your maps. You're understanding what these contour lines mean, because it really does make a huge difference in you being able to find the fish. And finding the fish is like, 85% of the work, if you ask me. If you can get me on fish, I can pretty much catch them. But it's getting me on fish that can be a challenge sometimes. And these are the things that help us find the fish. All right, so we're moving on in here. Got another road bed here. Not much going on that point, but any point on the lake is always a good place to stop and fish. But I'm just going to show you the points that I think are going to be more of the hot spots. So a good point there. You got a road bed going along here that could be interesting. And then again, we've got a really nice shallow flat coming off this point, dropping off into deeper water. So this would be a good one to look at as well. Got a road bed back in here. As we move back in here by this marina, this little area here looks interesting to me just because it has that nice flat, and it's kind of going back into the marina. So I don't know if there'd be anything there, if that's just kind of a junky spot, maybe just a dirt bank, but it'd be worth going and just looking, just scanning around, see if you see any activity there, see if you see any bait fish that have been pushed up in that area or anything like that. And if it has, then fish it. But if it's just dead land, then just skip past it. But again, off of this point, you've got another one of those fish icons. So it's always worth taking a look at those whenever you see those. As we get back in here behind this marina, just taking a look to see what's back here, you've got some submerged culverts that are back here. Got a little creek bed going on here, and you've got the road bed. So I would definitely look at those road beds. And then Not sure what is up here, but something you can tell is going on right around in this area right here. And it looks like you got flooded timber here as well. So I wonder if there is a tree line possibly there or something like that. Not sure what it is, but I would look right around in that area and just see why that's sloping off like that. It's an odd look. And then over here, off the front side of this island, um, this also looks good as well. You've got about 10 feet, 8, 9 feet, somewhere in there, right around in here. That's got a really nice flat top to it. And then you've got the break with the road bed out on the side of it. So this area in here would be a good area to look at as well. I'm going to keep on moving back here, going back in the cove. Just looks like a standard cove. Not seeing too much from the navionics standpoint. This area in here could be interesting. It's not making a significant point or anything like that, but the reason why it looks interesting to me is because you could find some debris up off of this area in here. You've got the creek bed that's coming along here. You've got a semi point that's coming over in here, a little bit of a flat top on it, and then that break off. So look in here for brush piles, things like that. You might be able to find something in this area. I'm going to scroll back just a little bit more. And again, my apologies for either the computer or the internet just going dog slow. So it's having a hard time keeping up with me. So I'm going to move on here. Not too much going on through here. Don't see too much back in there. I do like the fact there's a little fish icon and it's on the edge of a point here. So I would definitely take a look at that and see if there's anything going on there that would be attractive to you or be attractive to fish. For sure. And then we're going to keep on scrolling down. We talked about scanning those submerged culverts. That one's out there in some pretty deep water, 20, 25 foot of water. But in the summertime, that might be where you need to locate them. You've got another culvert up in here. And then you've got basically where the two creek beds meet each other right here at the edge of this dock. So I would say right in this area is probably a pretty good area to look for fish. There's probably going to be bait fish around these docks and things like that because of those creek beds. You got a little hard surface that's nearby, but the main thing is that you got that junction of those creek beds, and those are always good areas to look for fish, for sure. And then going back in here, not seeing too much, just a nice creek bed that's coming back through there. And then when you get out here in front of the marina, it looks like you've got some submerged culverts as well, and maybe some other stuff underneath the water as well. So a lot of submerged debris and stuff like that. This looks fairly deep, 30 something foot of water, but some of this debris up here is only 17 to 20 foot of water. So good crankbaiting area right in this area. And of course you can drag the Texas rig and all that good stuff. But I love crankbaiting and bouncing that stuff off that debris. It's a great way to be able to catch fish. So then going back in here, you've got the road bed. You've got a little bit of a break going on in here. That's somewhat interesting. So I would definitely scan the road bed, see if you have anything that that you can find in that area. This point's got that little bit of a shallow flat. It's got kind of the flat over here on this side, so it's not as significant. It doesn't make that real shape that you want, but it's got a little bit of a point to it. So I would definitely go out here and scan around this area and just see if you can find any activity. And then moving on down, we've just got the road beds. So again, take a look at the road beds. All of this stuff looks fairly interesting to me with these little underwater points that are coming out here with major drop-offs. These could be good places. I almost wish I could go out here and spend like a day on these lakes and just hit up these areas because I'm crazy. I'll scan every one of these things until I find out where the debris is or where there's some type of cover or something that they'll relate to. And that's kind of how I've been successful. I don't find them when they roam as much, but now that I've got the live scope, if I can find the bait fish, I can pretty much catch the fish because the fish are nearby. So these are areas that could be potentially good areas that before live scope I may not have really spent too much time on. But I would definitely look at this area, like this point here. Look at this point here as well, and up here on this flat. So these could all be good areas as well as this road bed here. And what I mean by the live scope is that I could get out here off of this point and there may not be any cover at all. It's basically just the structure, just the contour lines and stuff like that, the breaks, and that's what the fish are relating to, or the bait fish is relating to, and the fish are just relating to them. And so normally if I were out there doing that and I would see that, I wouldn't even try to fish that because that's damn near impossible. You've got to figure out what depth they're at. It's just really, really hard unless they're relating to the bottom. But if you've got live scope, you can basically say, hey, they're at 15 feet, those shad are at 10 feet. All I have to do is just keep my bait between 10 and 15 feet, and I can actually see it on live scope, which makes it even easier. And it just makes fishing just unbelievably easier once you do it. Now, the trick there, again, is what we talked about earlier. You've got to be able to read these maps and locate the fish. Once you locate the fish, then live scope just makes it way easier. But live scope's not going to be like you just go out here, drop the trolling motor down, and all of a sudden you start seeing shad everywhere. You've got to locate them on your side and you're down, figure out the structures, figure out the covers, all that good stuff. Once you do that and you put those pieces together, then you drop the live scope down once you mark the fish, and all of a sudden everything is kind of working in conjunction. So I'll get off my my live scope kick there, but just wanted to bring that up. I actually heard a video the other day, or saw a video on YouTube, and a guy was giving a live scope reference, and I'm not sponsored by anybody by any means, but they were saying basically that live scope wasn't really worth it and that it distracted you from fishing. I can't disagree more. It's actually made fishing a lot easier, a lot more enjoyable, and once you learn how to find the fish, that is a tool that you can really learn to not, you know you're on fish. That allows you to really hone in on it. So it is definitely worth it, definitely worth the investment. Don't let anybody talk you out of it. All right, off my live scope kick. Got some road beds here as well you want to take a look at. You got a good little break right in here. I don't know if you can see this, but you got a little flat that comes off this point, same one we were looking at out here. This has got the road bed and you've got the break right in this little curve. So look at this area in here. This looks like a prime area for them to be, especially pre-spawn and post-spawn. If they're getting back up in here and spawning, this is a good stopping spot for them. All the way, pretty much just follow that road bed. That's all good areas for them to stop at. All right, and then moving over here, you've got another point that comes out here. Just like we saw over here, you've got the same thing going on here. The top of this point's at 15, and the edge of it's all the way out in 30-something foot of water. So big difference there on the depth. And then if we move over a little bit further, and this internet stuff is driving me nuts, on this point right here, not too much going on from as like a break or a shallow drop or anything like that, but you do have this road bed that's out here. And let me scoot this over a little bit because I did want to show you this too. There's a pretty interesting little break going on right in here. So you've got this and you've got that break that comes along right in there. So take a look at that break when you're over here scanning these points, like that point, then come over here and scan this too and take a look at that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep on going up this bank line until we see something that looks really good to us. This point here looks interesting. It comes out a little bit, 9 feet off the edge of it, but this could be a good point to look at as well. And then again, if you're looking at this, if you notice right on the edge of this bank line, these lines get really tight. So that means you've got a pretty decent break that's coming right off the edge of this bank right in here. You can almost see it's almost defined like a straight line. So, that's not like a really big hot spot and not a spot that a lot of people are going to go to. And it may not be anything at all, but what it could be is a really good little drop that's just right there on the edge of the bank line, which is what it looks like it is. And sometimes those can be really great spots. So take a look at this area and just see if there's anything over there that might be worth fishing. We're going to move on up. We've got a big flat that's coming off of this little pocket, but not much going on the top of that flat. It's actually really pretty much a lot of nothing, but then you got those little breaks that are off the edge of it. So if you're, cruising up here and you're spending a couple hours just scanning, trying to locate bait fish and things like that, it wouldn't hurt you just to maybe hit the outside edges of this thing and just see if there's any bait fish that are relating to this area. All right, then I'm going to keep on moving up. We've got another point coming off of here, very similar to what we were talking about before, but see how this one doesn't have that drop off? It only has that drop on one side. So this side's probably not going to be as good because it's pretty much the same all the way through here. But the edge over here may actually be worth fishing. So take a look in here. This one doesn't look like one of the best points we've talked about today, but it definitely looks like a point I would at least stop by and do some scanning around and just check a look at it. So then I'm going to come up in here. It looks like this is Cottonwood Park Marina. Golly, driving me crazy. I'm so sorry, guys. Moving on up here. Don't see too much going on in these, You got that bank line there. Again, that looks like a pretty steep bank line. So some really good break. You must have a brush pile or something out here going into this cove. I don't see too much going on there, but obviously this looks like it could be a pretty good spawning cove. You've got really good flat, shallow water. So if they're coming out of there, you're looking at where are those points at that they could stop at. So right in here would be a good spot. Right here off the edge of this point or off the edge of here could be a good spot as well. So kind of take that and maps that up throughout the lake and just see if you can figure out where in the world these guys are hanging out at. And it'll change. One day they'll be in one spot, and then the full moon will hit and they'll be in the very back, and they'll be there for 4 or 5 days, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, they're not there anymore, or they're there, but they just won't bite because they're not really locked onto the bed. So it all just gets craziness. So just keep looking. Don't give up. You will find these guys. So moving on here, at this point, not too much going on here. A little bit of a sharp edge coming off of this point right here that you can see. So that could be interesting to take a look at. And then I don't think there's too much back here that's worth talking about from a navionics standpoint, other than this little icon here. So take a look at that. Could be a brush pile or something like that, but probably worth taking a look at. Over in here, you start wondering, does this creek bed actually come up and hit this bank line here? We've talked about that a lot. Anytime you see the creek bed and then you see these contours start pinching each other, there's a possibility that creek bed's actually wrong and it swings up against this bank. And if that's the case, right here where it potentially swings up against the bank is where you want to be fishing, because those are always good hot spots to take a look at. You also want to look out here, see where this icon is. This creek bed could be pushing right up against here. So you've got this little shallow flat that could be dropping off right to the edge of that creek bed. So this little spot that you see here, I guess you want to call it a point or whatever you want to call it, flat, but it basically is really close to that creek bed. So it's really worth taking a look at. It could be a good area to find some fish. I'm going to move on down through this marina, not seeing a lot going on here. Some of these points look like they might be worth fishing. This one here where it comes in really deep, right around the edge here, that could be good. And then if we move over here onto this one, this could be good as well. And I can't remember if there was rock in this area, but this looks like it could have rock. Just looking at the depth of it and stuff like that, this doesn't look like one of those just muddy, sandy banks, that a lot of times we'll see in our Texas lakes. So I'm going to move on up here. And as I move up here, you're going to notice we get into this huge flat that's up here. So it's about a 15-foot flat, kind of comes out, makes an underwater point. But if you get out around here, this is where you're going to see your flooded timber. This is where you're going to see your brush piles and stuff like that, right? Because we're right along that creek channel and it's making a little bend there as well. So this spot right in here would be a good area to take a look at it, right there. Then we're going to move on. And if you're scanning, you don't want to miss any points. You're going to want to hit this point here too. It's got a little bit of a top. It's got a little bit, kind of two little breaks here. So you've got this little shallow spot up top. Then you've got one break, and then you've got another break that comes out here that's a lot more significant. So scan around here. I would say this is going to be your hotter spot right here where it was 18 feet and has the break, has the creek bed really close. But this could be a good spot too, as well as this spot up here. See where you've got the 5 foot that comes out, makes a really nice point there. And then you've got some really good breaks that are going on there as well, right off the edge of it. So take a look at these. These can be good spots, especially when they have those nice big flat spots up on the top of them. I like them when they're more defined, but this one's pretty close to being defined. If I zoom out, it looks even better. All right, and then of course you want to fish around the bridges. Never miss a bridge. And then as we're moving in here, this area in here has some pretty good little contours as well. So fish around the bridge and then pull off that bridge and just look over here and see if there's anything here. But come out here, we've got kind of the same thing going on here. We got those flats with those breaks. Probably not too much going on in that area. I mean, it doesn't look anything too crazy, but really makes you say, man, that looks like a hot fishing spot we've got to go take a look at. Got some flooded timber off this point as well. And then moving up, I'm just kind of looking at these points, right in here, this could be interesting too, just because you've got some pretty interesting breaks, and this one comes up right against the bank line right here, right before it gets back to this cove. So maybe just right in this area here, see if you can find any breaks in there or any rock or cover or anything like that they might relate to before they go back to the back of that pocket. I'm going to keep scrolling up, and we're going to go and touch on that here in a minute, but let's get back up in here and just make sure we're not missing anything. Looks like we're up in Panther Creek now. Now this looks interesting right here. So you can see the creek beds over here. So I'd imagine it's not the creek bed that we're seeing here, but something's going on here because we got a pretty good break. You basically got a 4-foot ledge right there. So it goes from 2 foot to 6 foot, but it's just right off the edge of that point. So it's not a really big area to fish, but maybe fish from, maybe up here and then just fish it to right down around there. All right, and then I'm going to keep moving up. And here it just gets super shallow, so we're not going to talk about that because we did talk about the shallow stuff on the Google Earth waypoints. So if you want to go up there and get in the shallow water, definitely look at that waypoint video and go get you a card from simplisticfish.square.site. You'll put that SD card in your graph and all those points will show up, and it will make fishing so much easier for you. You definitely got to go get one of those cards if you haven't got one already. All right, then we're going to go back into here. This is the same type of thing, very shallow. So I know we marked some of these creek channels, so take a look at those. I'm going to pull back down and get into a little bit deeper water. You definitely want to take a look at this point that's right here. So even though there's not much going on there, you do have a creek bed that's fairly close by. And I like anytime these points make where you have like a mouth or a creek, a cove or anything like that splits like this, these are always good areas to take a look at. So definitely look at that point. And then moving over here, really what I would look at are these humps. So I would look at this hump that's out here. I would look at this hump that's out here as well. This one's got a creek channel coming close by it, so that's got to be a good one. And then let me just make sure I didn't miss anything up here, because if I get too far down there, I'll forget to come back up here. Anywhere you see these contours where it's pretty tight to the bank, I would fish those. Just because you've got pretty decent depth there. You have decent depth there. But other than that, I don't see anything up there that's really sticking out to me. But definitely hit all those spots where you see the deeper depths, or at least scan by them and just check it out. But when we get up in here, this is where we start seeing the juicy stuff for offshore fishing. So right here around this island, you got this break that comes right here off the edge of the island. So most of these guys are going to get up close to the island and fish around, but don't do that. Just pull back off a little bit and fish this where this break is. So scan around, figure out where they're at, and then fish it. If you can't figure out where they're at least just set up here and fish this break, or set up here in the shallow and actually pull it this way towards you. That's worked for me as well. So as we move down here, we talked about you want to fish this hump. This is also a really good point right in here. Let's see if I can get you a better image here. This is also a really good point right here. Notice how it comes off nice and flat up at top, only 7 feet, and then it's got the really good breaks that come out to the side of it. And then we're going to move on here. Now this looks like kind of a crazy mess when it comes to contour lines, but I would definitely go out here and look at this area, and that's right in here where these two creek beds converge on this little underwater point. So it looks like this point's got like 13 feet in here. Let's see if I can zoom in here, get us a better image. So we got about 13 feet right at the top of that hump, and then you've got these creek channels that come along each side of them, right here and right here. Then it makes that little point here. This spot just right in here would be a good spot. So I mean, if I was offshore fishing on Lewisville Lake and I didn't have but maybe 2 or 3 hours, I mean, this looks like a good spot to hit. I would definitely hit up here on this island. You got the creek bed coming by the island. That looks good. You got a creek bed coming by this island on this side as well as this side. And then you got this underwater point with 2 creek beds coming out here. So this whole entire area just looks like a really good area to do some offshore fishing. And then when you get down here, you kind of have the same thing. You got a really nice point again coming off 8 feet, pretty shallow, drops off to about 20-25 feet, but flooded timber, good point, good creek bed, all kinds of good stuff going on there. So definitely worth looking at. And then we're going to get up in here, not seeing too much Other than right here on this bank line, you can see where those lines get really, really tight. So maybe just take a look at that bank line and see what's going on there. Could have a good drop off or something like that that might be attractive to the fish. You definitely want to fish around the bridges for sure. And then we're going to go up here, not seeing too much going on here, but always look at those fish icons. I've talked to you guys about that a lot. You always want to take a look at those fish icons and see what's there. There could be some juicy stuff there. A lot of times it's brush piles and stuff like that. So then moving in here, didn't see too much going on in these little pockets. I mean, there are some pretty decent contours and stuff. You definitely want to come out here, even though you don't see too much going on from a contour perspective, just scan this whole bank line right here. Anything where it's close to this creek bed, if that creek bed's close by, just scan around here and see there's probably brush piles up in here somewhere. Now these 2 points too, this point here looks good. And this point here's got really sharp drop offs. You basically go from nothing to about 15 feet pretty quickly. So this point here looks like it could have some really good potential. And it's fairly close to that creek bed too, which makes it nice. All right, so I'm going to zoom back out. We may have to end this one a little bit earlier. I'm going pretty long on my time. I'm not sure how long this is taking, but let's see if I can make it through this thing. Hopefully we can. This might be too long for us. So we also have another point that comes out here. Now this one's a little bit deeper, 17 feet, goes off to 25 feet, but look how it sets up. I mean, you've got the creek bed for the Little Elm Creek coming in here, nice little bend that comes over here. You know there's probably brush piles and stuff right in this area. You got a little fishing icon, you got another point here. So this area right in here, although it's deep, could be a really good spot. Now right now it's probably gonna suck, right? Like today is May the 11th, so the fish haven't really moved out yet. Usually you'll have little groups of them that have moved out by now, but nothing's moved out yet. So there's not gonna be anything out there right now, but a couple months from now, June, actually even maybe like a month from now, you're gonna start seeing fish set up out here, and that's gonna be a really good spot. So we're gonna move on up here. Not too much going on in this cove, but I do want you to look right here off of this point. You've got a really nice drop coming off that point, and these secondary points are always good areas to take a look at for sure. And then move it over here, we saw the rock and the riprap that we talked about on the Google Waypoints video, and then I also talked about fishing that little area there, and ironically I look here and there's like 3 or 4 different spots for little fish icons just right there in that area. So that must be a really good spot to take a look at. So let's keep on going. We'll go ahead and finish this thing up because this is the last video, so no reason to make you guys suffer through one more. But while you're out here and you're taking a look at this stuff, we're just going to follow this creek bed up. I'm taking a close look at that while I'm scrolling up this bank line. You got a decent point here. Not sure I'd spend too much time working on that point, but this one looks a lot better. And the reason why is, again, because it has that little bit of a shallower top. Now, it's not a really crazy one, but it looks like it has some pretty good drop-offs. You're going from 11 feet to 17 feet, so definitely worth taking a look at. You've also got one of those Texas Parks fish finders, fish attractor areas, not finders, fish attractors out here, so take a look at that. You've got your marina, so obviously fish around the marinas. Those are always good spots. I don't know if you can get farther back in here, but I didn't see too much going on from the contour perspective. And then when we get up in here, it's going to start getting fairly shallow and not too much going on. But definitely fish this point. Again, really shallow water, pretty steep drop off, nothing too crazy, but I like how it sets up. So fish that point for sure. And then we're going to move up here. We're getting into the back of this pocket, and my internet is just going dog slow, so I'm getting crazy pictures of stuff. When we get back in here, we've got a pretty nice creek channel that comes back in here. I think we marked this as well on the Google Waypoints video, so take a look at that and just fish around that creek channel and on the edges of it. And if there's any bends in that creek channel, definitely fish those bends. So let's move this up. We're gonna get a little bit further up here. This is where it starts getting extremely shallow. So you're in like 10 foot of water here. So I'm gonna back off of here because if it's in 10 foot, I know we covered on the Google Waypoints video, but while we're up here, take a look at that culvert, see if you see anything in there that looks juicy to you. And then let's move over here to this Pecan Creek, because I think that's where things started getting a little bit more interesting. Obviously when you're up here, I marked that creek channel for you. Before I move off there, that thing that's just really catching my eye right there. So take a look at this area right in here where this creek channel is. I believe, again, I think we marked this for you on the waypoints, but look at that and look at that little plus sign. And then also look at where this thing spits out. So you see these contour lines that are right in here. So you've got some pretty good depth, or like a pretty good ditch that's going on here that basically goes from like 3 feet to 8 feet. So you've got a little bit of 5 foot little drop that's right there in that area. So take a look at that. That looks good. So let's go back here to this Pecan Creek, because here you've got, again, nice little creek channel coming through here. This one's got some pretty significant depth as well. Stupid thing will not focus. So you've got some pretty good creek bed that's coming over through here. So definitely fish all this area. I mean, anywhere you can find around there, you've got some serious breaks that are going on there, and this thing can't even focus on it. So take a look at that area. And then as we move down here, I like this too. You know, there's a lot of little shallow humps that come up. You've got a little underwater point that comes off over in this area. You've got this shallow point here that's in 4 feet to 6 feet to 8 feet. So just a really good area to fish around this whole area. I mean, it's hard to even say what to look for just specifically in that spot, but definitely look off the edges of this point and look around these humps. And then back in here, you got a little pinch point. So a little bit of a shallow area, and then it drops back, and then it gets basically shallow again. So just that whole area looks good. So take a look at that whole entire spot. Then moving down here, we definitely want to look at this point right here. Got the nice shallow top to it with a good break off the edge of it. So take a look at that. You've got another one of those fish attractor sites that's there as well. And then off of this island that you have out here, you've got some pretty decent breaks as well. Not too much going on there. That the back of this island right in here would probably be the only place that I would look. Now you guys are laughing because there's probably some magical spot that's on the back side of this island, but right in here would probably be my prime spot, unless the wind was blowing from this direction. So if it was coming up from this direction, then I may actually fish this bank line just because it's going to push the shad up to that area. Now, as you're coming out here, it would definitely be worth your time maybe just to scan off the edges of these and just see if you can locate any bait fish or brush piles or anything like that. You got some pretty good contours here, but that's a lot of scanning. As we get back in here, not too much going on back in here, you know, some decent points and things like that. Nothing too crazy. Got a pretty deep bank line. It's right over here on this side. And as we get back down in here, another decent point that's right here. So you got that shallow top that we're looking for with some pretty good breaks off to the edge of it. So right in there. And I have no idea what this thing is. I guess it's a toll bridge. That must be that toll bridge. Yeah, Lewisville Lake toll bridge. So pretty cool toll bridge there. But if you look right here, we got another one of those fish attractors. So take a look around that fish attractor. It looks like it's going to be on your second buoy. So right between your second and your third buoy, that's where that fish attractor is going to be. And then I'm going to keep moving down here. We've got another fish attractor that's over in here. You can see here the little icon. Some good contours and stuff going on there, but I don't really know what to point out to you guys. You know, I'd have to go scan that area to really figure it out. And then right in here, I like this point. The shallow top again that we've been looking for with the nice breaks off the edge of it. And then of course you got your marina back in here. Fishing anywhere around the marinas is always good. Just fish it all. If this is a break wall or if there's this rock or anything like that, definitely fish in here. If somehow you can finagle your way and get back in behind these things, those are good too. So just work those marinas over. I mean, just work them over because there's a lot of fish in there, always is. Now here, this all looks definitely interesting. You've got a little island that comes over here with a point. The break is really way out there. It's a little bit farther off. So I'm not sure if this island's really that great to fish around, but anytime you have an island, you have that high spot that comes up and you've got deep water on both sides, it's usually pretty good. So I would probably just check it out. Maybe not as good as some of the other spots we've seen, but definitely worth taking a look at. You've also got some high spots up in here. See how this comes way out here and then it finally drops off in 25 something feet. This is like that long point that a lot of people would miss because it just, visually it doesn't set up perfectly for you, but this is a really good point. I mean, this thing's 9 feet on the top and it comes all the way out to here. It's got breaks on both sides and it goes all the way out to 25 something foot of water. So this whole area from this point all the way down to here would be a good area to scan and look for fish. You've also got some decent points that are back in here as well, you know, that you could scan around and things like that. Then we get back down here, back around the this old dam or whatever you want to call it, this old road bed. You got some road beds that are going on here. Check out all these little fish icons. You know, check out those road beds that we talked about there. And then as we get back down in here, some more road beds that are over in here. So you've got this huge flat that's up here, you know, 15, 16 foot of water. You got a culvert that's out here in about 30 foot of water. But it looks like, you know, these things have nice little points that come off of them. So 17 foot to 31 feet. So right in there would be a good area to look. You know, right in here would be a good area to look around this road bed. So you're just going to have to scan around these areas and look, but they're setting up pretty nice, but these just look like really large areas. So there's somewhere in here that you're going to have to find them. So find the submerged culverts, find the road beds, find the edges of those points, see what you can find down there. And you know there's brush piles somewhere out there as well. And then going back in here, you got a little bit of a pinch point coming on back in here, so probably some riprap and stuff you could fish around. And then another road bed that's back over here that you can see as well. And then I'm going to scroll back down here a little bit. We're getting really close to that creek channel. You know, this looks too deep. It looks really cool, but it's just too deep for me to fish. Fish these little red things. Those could be foundations and stuff like that. And then as we get back into here, you know, we talked about this earlier, fishing in this area. But fish all, or not fish, but at least scan around in this area right in here. You've got a submerged culvert. You got a little point that comes way out here. So you can see it right here with the drop-offs, with the creek bed all around here. So scan basically this whole entire area right in here around this creek bed, and especially on top of this little point in here. This could be a good area. And that pretty much wraps us up for Lake Lewisville. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. That was our 5th video. So again, if you only got to see this video, there's 4 more that you can go check out. There's 1 more for Navionics that talks about offshore hotspots, and there's 3 out there for the Google Earth waypoints. And then just my plug for you guys, go out and get your SD card for your graphs. We support Humminbird, Lawrence, and Garmin, and then we can also get you a chip for just the Google waypoints as well if you want those. But go out, it's simplisticfish.square.site. It helps support our site, and we truly appreciate it. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button, hit it now. If you haven't hit the like button, please do so. Leave us a comment, and until next time, tight lines.